Welcome to another segment of Hardcore Sports. So glad you joined us for another segment of Hardcore Sports. Shout out to Kenny Graham, Kenneth Paul Studios, and he's the executive producer of the show. He's got the social networking called MyStatenIslandLife.com. So if you're into social networking and you want to know more about the Staten Island community, you just hook up with Kenneth Paul Studios, executive producer, MyStatenIslandLife.com. That's his social networking. And I'm hooked up with it. I've been hooked up when he started it. And it's more than just social networking. You get news, and it's just check it out. Once you see it, the homepage, you'll sign up immediately. And he's not asking a whole lot of information, just an email, the typical social networking stuff. Your email and stuff like that, and then you like 5 things and a little password, and then you're ready to rock and roll. And MyStatenIslandLife.com. He's also has the Kenneth Paul Studios, where he does the pictures for the models. He's got tons of models now lining up to take pictures, and then fantastic stuff that he's been doing with the models and stuff. So if you're an actor, model, link up with our executive producer, Kenny Graham, and he'll hook you right on up. Eileen is on vacation, but we've been blessed to have Sister Karen straight from the pulpit. Praise the Lord. So we are thankful to have Sister Karen here with us, sitting in for our Eileen Hanlon. So without further ado, there are a bunch of things going on in the world of sports. Unfortunately, we got some sad news overnight. We've got some sad news overnight. Dean Meminger, former Knick, apparently died of a drug overdose in Harlem. Dean Meminger, a key player on the last New York Knicks team to win a title, was found dead of a possible drug overdose with his gold championship ring still on his finger. A fully clothed Meminger, 65, was discovered on his bed in the Casablanca Hotel on West 145th Street near Broadway after his hotel staff went to talk to him after he didn't check out as expected, sources said. There was white stuff oozing out of his nose, one source said about the troubled ex-Knick. Looked like he had a seizure after using cocaine, but the medical examiner will have the final say. The point guard was the Knicks' first-round draft pick in 1971 and played a key role in their march to the last championship in 1973, when he played along legendary Willis Reed, Walt Frazier, and Earl of Pearl. But he fell on hard times in recent years, nearly burning himself to death in 2009 in a fire in the Bronx in a rooming house where he was allegedly living while allegedly smoking crack. So that's an unfortunate story. Rest in peace to Dean Meminger. He means a lot. I mean, a lot of some basketball shouldn't say a lot, but it's been turning out. Unfortunately, more of these athletes have been falling on hard times, and it's unfortunate he had to pass away in this manner. Rest in peace to Dean Meminger. His jersey is erected in Madison Square Garden, and then let's not forget Dan the Man is back. What's going on, Dan the Man?
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, Dan the Man is back in business, man. His jersey's retired, right?
Uh, I'm not sure. I don't think
I'm
so.
I'm not sure either. I
I don't
thought it
think so.
was.
Because he wasn't like one of the greats on the Knicks team, so I don't think so. It's not like, because he would come off the bench for Walt Frazier or Earl Monroe along with Henry Bibby. So, yeah, I don't. I don't think so.
Yeah, they did have a night for him though. They had some kind of special ceremony recently because I think they did something where they had a 25-year or 40-year anniversary to the championship or something like that, and I think he was there. I think they did do some. They've had some stuff that um, they've had various ceremonies where he participated, and I do remember him. They've had ceremonies in the past where um, they did a special ceremony for him and other former Knicks. So rest in peace to Dean Meminger. It's sad, that any NBA player has to end their career in this manner, but it's also even sadder because he's a New York Knick. So moving right along, we've got the Jets Giants tonight. We should see more from the new quarterback for the Jets. And then this week we had the whole fiasco with again, sports radio again has pissed me off again. They have managed to do it again. They've managed to tick me off another thing with this 4,000 hits for Ichiro. Dan, you've been following this? 4,000
Yeah.
4,000 hits?
Yeah, that's Japan and Major League Baseball.
They're counting Japan stuff now?
Well, it's that he was the star over there, but Japanese baseball is much different than American baseball is more superior than Japanese baseball.
I mean, I don't even know if that's double-A ball. Where he came from in Japan, I'm not even sure if that's double-A. I'm not even sure if that's double-A ball.
It's professional baseball in Japan, but the ballpark's a little bit smaller, and
Did Bobby Valentine win a championship? Are we going to count his Japanese championships now towards his total? It just gets. I think if it's not Major League Baseball, my whole point is, and it's not a knock to Ichiro, and I don't want people to get me wrong. I am not against Ichiro one bit. He's probably one of the most stand-up guys and probably one of the most low-key players that you could ever see. He's a player that first minds his business. You don't hear about him at all. He's quiet as a mouse. He plays hard. He's always played hard. He's had a legacy of playing hard. I want to make sure I'm clear that I have no ill will or ill feeling about Ichiro whatsoever. But I have a problem with the media adding some 1,200 hits to his Major League 2,700. He's got 2,700 Major League hits. But I didn't know that we count others now. And this is something new. And I'm saying once you start opening up this can of worms, are we going to now count Dr. J's championships from the ABA? Are we going to count his points that he scored from the ABA along with his NBA total? Because, and then on top of it, what even makes it worse is Major League Baseball talks about cheating. This whole thing about A-Rod for the last month with A-Rod and this whole business with A-Rod and other people, Pete Rose and others, is the integrity of the game. But how can you have an integrity of the game? How are you going to have integrity when you're adding hits from a foreign league? There's nothing worse than this. Is like the worst thing that could happen for baseball, as far as I'm concerned. They're shouting from the rooftops, 4,000. Where do you come up with these numbers now? From Japan? So now for all the Dominican players that come, are we going to add the Dominican leagues? The Dominican League hits? The players that come from the Mexican League? Are we going to add the Mexican thing? Let's get it straight. the players who played in the ABA was a professional league. The players that play Herschel Walker, who played for the USFL, are we going to count his rushing yardage when he played in the USFL now along with his yards rushing in the NFL? I think once you open up that can of worms, it's going to be hard to close it. I don't think that we need to go down that path. We have to nip it at the bud right now. That's my answer. The answer is no. We don't open up that can of worms because it will be a never-ending situation. We don't open up that can of worms. That's the answer. The answer is Ichiro has 2,700 some odd hits, and he needs to. And it's unfortunate. And the problem part of it is they really want to make Ichiro legitimate because he started his career. I guess the powers that be feel sorry that he didn't get an opportunity to join Major League Baseball as a younger man. Because probably as a younger man, he would have more than 3,000 hits at this point. If he would have had the opportunity, whatever the reason that prevented him from coming to the Major League Baseball in the first place, he probably would have surpassed 3,000 at that point. But you need to say that. You folks in the media rather than just throwing in his 1,200 some odd Japanese hits, it'd be better for you to say, well, it's unfortunate that he didn't start his career younger in Major League Baseball, rather than add these illegitimate hits. These are illegitimate. They do not count as far as I'm concerned. He's got 2,700 and I think 41 or 42 hits. At this point, he will be considered a Hall of Famer no matter what. He will be considered, but let's not fudge his numbers. And then let's take it another step further. Ty Cobb and Pete Rose, both 4,000. Ichiro is not them either. Let's make that. And let's say this again. I will say this again. I have nothing against Ichiro whatsoever. And it has nothing to do with him being a Yankee. Actually, now, because of A-Rod, I'm watching the Yankees every day. I'm a Met fan, but the Mets are nothing to watch. The Mets can make all this talk about they've got Harvey and Wheeler and this, that, and the third. But the Mets don't have really much of a team. So I've been watching a lot of the Yankees. It doesn't bother me. I like watching A-Rod. I like watching Soriano. They've got players I like to watch. So it's not because he's a Yankee. It's because they got it wrong. They've got it really wrong. And I love sports radio. But you guys get it wrong. They get it wrong. And you guys need to call these radio stations and call them out on it. Because the 4,000 hits is illegitimate hits. Straight like that. Those are illegitimate Japanese hits. And if we're going to open up that can of worms, then you got to give Dr. J 3 championships? Dr. J won 3 championships in the ABA, at least 2. So he's got 4 championship rings. If you're going to count all the championships that Dr. J won, if Herschel Walker, he rushed for X amount of yards in the USFL, so whatever amount total that he made in the NFL, and then you add his USFL rushing yards, you got to put those all together too. And I know you don't want to do that. So sports radio always gets it wrong. And another thing, sports radio told us that lie that the Mets were better without Reyes and Beltran. And we know that was a big lie. We know that was a huge story they told us. And I didn't go for it. As a matter of fact, I got tired of them saying it. I really got tired of them saying it. When the Mets had Reyes, they were saying the Mets were better without Reyes. The Mets were better. And as we see, it's a funny situation. When the Mets had Reyes, they were over 500. When the Mets had Reyes, check it out. When the Mets had Reyes, they were 500 and better. But they spent most of their days above 500. Now, since they lost Reyes, they spend most of their days below 500. And it's almost to the day. It's almost to the day. The day that Reyes has not played for the Mets was the day that the Mets went below 500. Almost to the day. The Mets had a couple of times where they were above 500, a couple of days or so at the beginning of the season, whenever season it was, they flirted above 500 for a little while in April and May. They might have flirted a couple of games above 500, but they've spent most of their days, almost to the day that Reyes packed his bags and hooked his cleats up. Right, Dan?
Yeah.
That's true. And they were the first ones to tell you the Mets were better without Reyes. That's the biggest lie. Both stations, ESPN Radio and WFAN, they told us with a straight face. They tried to tell us that the Mets are better without Reyes. Really? And it's up to you and some you radio people. And you know what? It's funny. You hear callers, they hear it so much, then they believe it. They hear it so much, then they start believing the lie. Then you have callers that call us, you know what? The Mets are better without Reyes. Really? And it's crazy. It's almost like it's subliminal seduction. You got the guy saying it over and over. Yeah, Reyes dogs it. He dogs it. With 65 some months. It's hard for me to say it with a straight face myself. With 65 plus, the guy led the Mets in almost every category ever. You go to the Met record books. Go to the Met record books. Jose Reyes leads in almost every category. I mean, most of the speed categories, doubles, triples, stolen bases. He's up there, man. One of the best, I think one of the best shortstop, probably the best shortstop to ever play for the Mets. Best offensive shortstop without a doubt. I mean, defensively, you can make an argument maybe that Buddy Harrelson was a better fielding shortstop than Jose Reyes. But overall, shortstop for the Mets, Jose Reyes is probably the best. Dan, what do you think? Dan is an all-time Met fan. I got to run this by Dan.
Yeah, he's the best. There's nobody better.
The best shortstop to ever play for the Mets. I don't think I've ever seen anybody with that many triples in a season. And he did it a number of times. Led the league in triples. So the Mets are not, it was a lie. And we can't let them get away with it. Call them out on their nonsense. And especially this 4,000 hit stuff. 4,000 hits. You can't let them get away with it. Just get that out of your mouth, please. 4,000 hits. You serious? If it's not Major League Baseball, then it doesn't count. I'm sorry. If it's not Major League Baseball hits. Oh, yeah, and getting back to this. And then we're going to move on. We got a horse racing. We got the Jets Giants tonight. And then we have horse racing we got to talk about. Ichiro is not even in the same conversation as Ty Cobb and Pete Rose. Ichiro is not even in the same conversation with those two. So let's just stop it right now. His 1,200 some odd hits that you're trying to give him are illegitimate because they're from Japanese hits. from a Japanese league, but he's not even in the same category. He's not even in the same sentence as Ty Cobb and Pete Rose. And I can't even explain it any further. Ty Cobb is like, I mean, he was a racist or whatever. He had racist. I would say he had racist attitudes and made some racist statements, but it was at a time where that stuff could fly. So I give him a pass for that because that was at that time in the 1940s. But he is one of the you know, all-time greats, Ty Cobb. I'm like, he's in the same category as Stan Musial and Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. You know, he's one of those names that you mention as one of the all-time great players to ever play the game, Ty Cobb. So, I mean, and Ichiro's definitely not that. And then Pete Rose was Charlie Hustle, and Pete Rose beat Ty Cobb's record. And if you watch Pete Rose play, Pete Rose is an all-time great. He just played in the modern era. Ty Cobb came from that old pre-World War II era. So, and Ichiro is neither. Ichiro is neither. And Pete Rose was part of the Big Red Machine that won championships and dominated baseball in the 70s. So, yeah. So, moving right along, we've got Geno Smith starting tonight for the Jets. We'll see what's going to happen with that one. We have Geno Smith, and somehow we're going to figure out, Rex Ryan's going to figure out which quarterback they're going to use. I heard. I don't want to get into it too much as the football season moves along. I heard another radio station guy. I'm not going to mention his name, but I heard a radio station guy mention that the Jets are a zoo. You could basically, and I'm gonna point this out during the season. There's a zoo on every team. There's a player that you could darn near say there's a player in every team. Every NFL team has got a zoo latched along with it, but we're not going to go into that right now. We got a horse racing thing tonight. 6:30ish, 7:00, Dan?
Something like that. Yeah, it's like 14 races on the. Matter of fact, the first race just ran already at Saratoga.
Yeah, we got the Traverse at Saratoga, and we've got our handicapping aficionado here, Dan the man. He knows his stuff as far as horse racing stuff goes. So what's going on over with the Traverse up in Saratoga tonight?
Well, the top jockey, one of the top jockeys, Joel Rosario, broke his foot, so he won't be able to ride in the stakes races today, especially Orb. So they had a jockey change there on Orb. And, Travers is like the Midsummer Derby. And, there's some good horses in there. Verrazano, Paris, Malice, Orb. So, let me run down my picks. The last 2 years in a row, the horse that has won the Travers, believe it or not, is bred by Bernardini. Last year's winner, Alpha, who dead heated with Golden Ticket, he's bred by Bernardini. And the year before, Stay Thirsty won the Travers. He was bred by Bernardini. Bernardini, by the way, won the Travers in 2006. So, and it seems like, out of this breed, this horse really loved the track. It's kind of weird the way I liked Orb originally, but he's coming off of a layoff, and I don't remember any horses that came off a layoff to win the Travers. You need a prep race, so I'm thinking that Orb needs this race right here just as a prep. So I didn't really put him as my top pick. So my top pick, believe it or not, is the 9-horse Transparent. There's two horses in here bred by Bernardini, and it's both is by the same owner, Godolphin Stables, which is the best stable in the world. So I looked at the horses carefully, and this the number one horse, Romance, and number 9, Transparent, are both bred by Bernardini. And I picked Transparent because he won his last race at Saratoga, but he was disqualified and placed fifth because he impeded another horse. But the way he ran by the field, it was very impressive. Another horse that's very dangerous I picked for second is Moreno. Moreno set the pace in the last race that he ran in the Jim Dandy Stakes, where Palace Malice won the race and Will Take Charge came second. He might be the speed that will go out there. He might set a suicide pace, or he just might get loose on the lead and just go as far as he goes. And I think this horse is very dangerous. In the first race, a horse went wire to wire. So if the track is fast, this horse may sneak in and win the race. So I'm picking him for second. That's number 6, Moreno. And the third horse that I'm picking is the number 1 horse, Romance, who's out of Bernardini. This horse came second to his stablemate Transparent, who I'm picking to win. He was placed first because he came second to Transparent in his last race. This horse is going to be stalking the pace. He's going to be sitting behind Moreno, Verrazano, and Palace Malice. So I picked him for third, and I'm picking an Orb for fourth. So
9612.
Yeah, the reason why I didn't go with the other picks that everybody else is picking, like Verrazano. Verrazano only lost one race. That's the Kentucky Derby. The reason why I'm not picking him to even make the board, it doesn't seem like he wants to go a mile and a quarter. That seems to be his problem. Plus, he's facing better horses than he faced his last 2 times when he won by almost 10 lengths at Monmouth, back to back, even including the Haskell. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't put Verrazano in. And I think I was correct in the Kentucky Derby why I left him out also. Also, Palace Malice might have problems because the trainer Todd Pletcher has both horses, Verrazano and Palace Malice. So Mike Smith, he's a great rider, he's a money rider. He might have problems trying to sit either behind Verrazano or trying to get the best of Verrazano by stalking the lead horse Moreno, and I'm looking at it in a way that Palace Malice can run either way, but if he doesn't get the positioning that he wants, he might not do anything in the race. And the same thing with this horse, Will Take Charge. Now, he's a wise guy horse. Everybody is picking him to win because he came second to Palace Malice and the Jim Dandy. They took the blinkers off. They said this is a different horse. But, Dwayne Lucas, he's really unpredictable. And the horse ran his best race, but losing in the Jim Dandy. I don't know if he can come back and sustain that type of speed that he had in the last race. So, and plus he got a different jockey in the race. So this is really was a hard race to handicap because I think this race is open.
Yeah, we got about a minute left. So your picks are 9. The race starts at 5:46. 5:46 is the start time. The post time is 5:46 today. I think this is the 10th race. 12th race. 12th race at Saratoga. Yeah, 12th race at Saratoga, mile and a quarter. And your pick, Dan's picks are 9612.
Yes.
9612. Dan the Man. Wow, we've just run through a half an hour. Shout out to thanks Dan the Man for those picks. Shout out to Kenny Graham. Shout out to our executive producer, Sister Karen, straight from the pulpit. Check out her show. And we're going to be off next week. So happy Labor Day. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Peace.
All right, peace.